Welcome to Accuracy Third. I'm Beth.
I'm Rex.
And I'm D-Day.
This is the re-release of our first ever season. So new listeners, welcome. And old listeners who wonder what the hell is happening now. We discovered that our first season is no longer on our feed for internet reasons that who the hell knows?
Some RSS jiggery pokery is as legitimate a term as I could figure out from none of the Google searching I did online about this.
And since our first season is not our best work, unsurprisingly, who does their best work when they're first starting at a brand new thing? We decided it would be best just to take our first season and cut out a bunch of the fat, slap it together into two big chunkier episodes, and re-release it for posterity.
Yeah, well, so to be clear, we were told some amazing stories in our first season. We just sucked at making podcasts at that point.
Some of our quietest, most compelling work.
There is...
And, there's not a ton of fat in the episode itself. Like, our intros and outros are awkward, and we don't have to tell you about things that are happening literally, 6-7 years ago. But we cut down those interviews to, just the meat, which is why they're so short.
Yeah, you'll see comparing these to other episodes
when we realized
in our
that
canon.
What we really like to do is a ramble.
Yeah. and we became better interviewers after a little bit of practice, as well as better producers.
Holy shit, listeners. We were terrible interviewers when we started doing
we
this.
weren't that bad.
We were terrible interviewers when we started doing this.
It took us a little while to find our rhythm is all.
I mean, you two had charm with each other from the very start, but I don't think you're remembering the first couple of interviews with Shy Quiet people where you guys just talked over them the whole time. And remember while we were building up a list of questions as hey, we could always ask these questions. And it's wild to me because to me, being on the inside of it, it's been a very smooth experience going from not knowing how to do this at all to knowing how to do it mediocrely well. Completely
ungranular. It's been a smooth transition from being awkward to I think we do pretty well.
So I remember the first time I was editing our very first episode. This was me putting together. So we had recorded several times before we recorded our first episode because we were attempting to be professionals and were well aware that we would get better, but didn't know how bad we were. And I was sitting in my ex-girlfriend's house up in Humboldt, editing this audio of Burning Man and being wait a second, this could be good. Holy shit, this might be actually pretty fucking entertaining. And
I think we're a solid B+, sometimes a real soggy A-. We got definitely a bunch of C's.
We got a lot of really great content in our first season, and it just ramped up from there. We've honestly been completely blessed with the quality of content we've gotten from our guests most of the time.
We're pretty consistently okay. We're also hit and miss,
Yes, we are definitely hot and cold. We have some very good content and not insubstantial quantity of fine.
Are you an Accuracy Third completionist? Let us know.
Yeah,
we're sorry for at least 5% of what we've made entirely.
What is your
we have to be sorry for that. I think just 5 to 15% of the stories aren't stories for the three of us, but we've heard a lot of this. And especially with storytelling podcasts like ours, you never know exactly the perspective that the story is going to be, or the emotional load that is there or isn't, or what you do or don't find compelling about the event or the community.
So that's a point I'd like to bring up.
I brought that up.
Yeah, that's a point I'd like to point out that you brought up.
Thank you.
That's a point that Beth would like to tag.
Like, we haven't talked to our audience in quite a while about what it is that we want to do on this podcast.
Yeah. And in fact, what you're not going to be hearing at the start of episode 1, when we stop our rambling here, is us awkwardly reading our written statements of intent.
Which I made them do because I'm like, what the fuck are we doing, guys? Guys, we have to know what we're doing.
They're not bad, and stay tuned till the end.
But they hadn't learned to read charismatically at all yet. It is like the deadest, driest fucking reading. It is the worst thing to have you start your podcast, which is actually pretty decent. But it's earnest, my friends. It's very earnest.
My notion with this podcast was always to have it be a broad strokes document of the Burning Man culture, a collection of enough voices and perspectives that somebody in a future remove, someone 200 years down the line could listen to all of it in totality and have a notion, a significant idea of what Burning Man is. And to have it be a little bit of an antidote to the very pat descriptions of Burning Man that have been present in culture at large. This is a problem that was a little more acute when we started. There's, all of YouTube to get perspectives. But I think even that content is going to be colored by the algorithm in the same way that Instagram content is always going to be pretty people, and magazine articles are always going to be photos of pretty people and interviews with official people.
I just know that my prettiness is on the inside, and who better to shout my opinions about things into the void than me?
Listeners, you've checked out our social media content. Give us a shout. Let us know. Is D-Day pretty on the outside?
Oh, my God.
Oh, and I meant
and
this.
We're going to leave it there.
D-Day, what's your take on that? Does that jive with how you were envisioning this project?
So do I start with the altruistic things or the selfish things?
Which calls to you?
Do you, boo?
All right. So altruistically, I thought that we had an interesting perspective to share that we hadn't seen in mass media about Burning Man. Like, we all agreed that the world at large, at least the American zeitgeist, had gotten a very skewed view of what Burning Man was. And since we were people who worked for the organization and knew a bunch of volunteers and artists and people that worked for the org, that we would have an edge to getting interesting people with interesting stories on our podcast.
And we live in the Bay Area.
Right. We live in Burner Central. Still Burner Central.
Mm-hmm.
One of the Burner Centrals. And yeah, that would make the getting guests very easy. Before, it was much easier to record with people over the internet, and the internet was so much more robust.
Oh, holy shit. We've been at this for 7 years. It is the same season in which we finally figured out how to do phoners in the right way.
Do not call them phoners in the future, please. I am uncomfortable with that, it turns out. I don't want to investigate it. Not now. Not in this intro of part 1.
D-Day, show us on the doll where the disc jockey touched you.
Part 2. Oh my God, so many places. So many different disc jockeys. Like I said, we were going to leave it there. No, that was earlier. We're going to leave this there then.
So,
well,
the selfish bit?
I knew that I was about to have a baby, and I thought that this would be a stable, fun way for me to continue doing a sort of performance, even though this doesn't slake all of those urges?
No, there is no round of applause.
There's no memorization. There's no character work.
Man, we should just get you an applause button.
Dude, that's
It
not
won't
what I
work.
need now. I need to be doing a genuine thing in front of people and proving my worth as a person.
How you don't know it's not going to work before we try it?
I immediately thought of those cat buttons where D-Day goes up and just bats at it, and then it gives him like I don't know, what kind of thing do you like?
I would like a blinky hanging from a string that I could lay on my back and kick my
cat
my
toy.
feet and my paws.
Produces cat toy.
He would like a slightly shocked laugh.
This isn't about season 1 or part 1 or 2.
No, that's true.
Yeah.
But we are talking about how it is.
But we are talking to our patrons. Hi, patrons.
We are.
We're
Hi, patrons.
talking about why we did this.
Yeah. Why, like, I think it's interesting. All three of us had slightly different motivations, and how we came into it and what we did was like the most fun thing that has been an art making experience for me.
Mm-hmm. Pretty healthy.
The most fun version of making art that I have ever done. And the longest and the most, like, quote
Farthest reach.
unquote, quote unquote successful when it comes to the number of years of people of,
The audience persuasion.
The audience. Yeah. When you are a playwright, you don't ever get 250,000 people.
Mm-hmm.
Like, not that
Well,
we have that.
250,000
downloads. But, like, you never get 250,000 watches
Our
of your play.
audience might be in the 1,000.
Yeah, it's
thousands,
maybe
not
in
many,
the 1,000
not plural thousand.
right
but
now.
Thousands.
Perhaps more than 1,000. And we are humbled and grateful that every single one of you
Yeah.
pays attention to us because we're just some nerdy burners.
And we're counting
some
on you to
cute
come talk to us so we can keep making our show. Like, individually, if you want this show to continue, you're gonna need to come be interviewed on this show.
I mean, we've talked to over 100 people.
We have.
We absolutely
And that means we've got like 10,000 people, 10,000 individual people who have listened to us at least.
Yes,
Sure.
I think that's probably fair.
We've definitely talked to over 100 people.
I'm
a lot of
talking
that-
about our consistent audience.
Oh, yeah,
sure.
yeah. Like our,
But you're absolutely right. Our reach has exceeded thousands.
And especially for the handbooks and the Virgin Acculturation Guide, like that's where we get tens of thousands of individual people
downloading it, listening to 45 seconds of it going, no thank you, and never touching
Perhaps.
it again.
Yeah, but tens of thousands of people have downloaded those.
Oh, come on. The Vag is good.
Dude, it's all good.
It's all fine.
yeah, it's not for everyone.
Let's-
It's not
but I've
for
never
everyone.
made art for anyone.
Look, we can be honest here. This is 7 years in. The survival guide is just okay.
Oh, yeah. It's
I don't know.
I'm like, voting is not great. Of all of the things, fucking Rex walked me through. So Rex went on a nice date with someone who would actually be interested in our podcast as a burner and was asking what episodes you would recommend. And none of them are the survival guide.
Oh, goodness, no.
Yeah, but they're not for burners.
They're not, they're boring. That's why I never wanted to do them in the first place. Sorry.
That was actually a thing I wanted to talk about, is the thing that you really, so Beth, listeners, was a little resistant to this idea.
I really
when I
wanted to
first
make a
pitched it.
podcast.
She really wanted to make a podcast.
That's what I'm an audio person, and I had been a sound designer, and I fucking love podcasts. I love them. And so I really wanted to make one. And then this opportunity with two people I really liked and respected. And in this circumstance where it's like, we did have the opportunity to interview really interesting and cool people kind of right off the bat.
Mm-hmm.
And like, I was looking at it being, how could A, making a podcast is hard. You should do it with multiple people. And B, if you're going to make something with the intention that you would like people to listen to it, maybe something that is interesting that you have access to. Mm-hmm. So all of that made a lot of sense to me.
And you didn't say no right away. But you were pretty resistant to the idea at first, and for like solid reason. As much as I've been the cheerleader for the project from the go, I recognize the extreme risk of corniness in making a Burning Man podcast. It's an enormous pitfall that's right there in front of us when we're doing this thing about a thing we love.
I hadn't even considered that. That's a risk of things.
It is your
God, there has never been a moment that I've been working on a project where I'm like, oh boy, people might think this is corny.
It wasn't corniness. It was just like, it's uninteresting to me deeply. It's uninteresting to me to explain to people what your packing list should be and how you need to survive out there. It's funny though, because we've been doing it so long, it is much more deeply interesting to me what your packing list is and what you need to survive out there. But that's because I've spent so long diving into the world that is Burning Man and like how you do it. And Rex and I were talking today about the thing that I really want to hear more of on the podcast are people who plan big theme camps, because it's like, oh, it's production manager porn. How do you manage the production of your theme camp? Tell me, what is your structure? How do you do it? Which is horribly boring to the vast majority of people who go to Burning Man.
So when you finally agreed to do it, what you told me explicitly, and I was 100% on the page with you about, was you said you don't want to make a how to do Burning Man podcast, and by and large we've avoided that.
I've slipped that in as much as I could. What else would you talk to people about?
Well, we've managed to do that by dint of like finding out how people do Burning Man, which is an interesting inquiry. But then we also ended up doing a survival guide and virgin enculturation guide, and that
the universe
kind of exactly is a how to do Burning Man. And I'm not sorry.
I'm not sorry.
Yeah.
The org asked us to do it. It was nice to do something the org asked us to do.
We proved our worth.
They asked us to do the survival guide, and that was fine. But I think you can kind of tell our hearts aren't super in it.
I mean, you can tell we're getting degenerately drunk by the end.
Definitely tell you.
It was a big project.
Getting extremely drunk during my section.
My marriage may have been declining during that time.
All our marriages were
who
falling
knows?
apart.
Was it? Were they?
Yeah, both of your marriages were on the rocks.
Great. Well,
And
turns
Beth's
out
triad.
I didn't need them.
Oh shit, that was the year of the triad, like actually ending. Guys, we might have made the first year of podcasts
With broken hearts.
while all of us fucking worlds were falling apart.
But I 100% stand by the vag. That was us realizing that was a thing we needed to do. And I think we made a valuable piece of Burning Man content.
Yeah.
For the culture. For the culture.
Well, you're welcome for the culture.
So for me, the reason why I signed on to it is because there were so many compelling stories about people who went. And the first season, as you are, dear listeners who are putting up with us right now, are about to listen to, these were a lot of stories that super broke open my resistance. The idea that there's nothing that interesting to talk to about Burning Man. Mm-hmm. Like, not because of what they tell you about Burning Man, but because what they reveal to you about being a human being, and a specific kind of human being, the kind of human being that like is the compelling force of doing big communal projects like this.
The kind of person that goes to Burning Man and says, holy shit, this is what I've been looking for.
Wait, people do hard art camping? Holy shit, oh my God.
People do the most absurd, over-the-top, ridiculous thing in the hardest place possible for no other reason than to do it and light it on fire.
People keep bringing shit out with gears.
People will try gears forever.
Yeah.
Forever.
Gears for days. Gears for day.
Gears for a day.
So if you haven't heard these yet, or maybe even if you have and haven't revisited them in a few years, let's listen to the very first season of Accuracy Third.
Here are our first 4 episodes. There's going to be a second bit for the last 4, and we'll be back at the end to say goodbye. D-Day, what's one thing that's the same about the man every year, and yet different?
Made out of wood, but maybe made out of different pieces of wood?
Sure. Yeah, I guess it would have to be different pieces of wood.
It's okay. I know why you're asking me leading questions. You're talking about the neon on the man because we have the neon artist and installer Smoke Daddy here with us today.
Yeah, that's right. So you are friends with Smoke Daddy. Can you tell us a little bit about him?
I think of it as Smoke Daddy being friends with me.
You're right. That is kind of a blessing, isn't it?
It is. Smoke Daddy is this amazing tall drink of water who kind of moves through the world as if he's dangling from marionette strings. And he does that because he is one of the most relaxed, peaceful, kind guys I know.
He is. He is one of the chillest individuals I've ever come across.
And he looks like a neo-futurist pirate.
Yeah, like a Zen swashbuckler. It's a smart look. In the background, you will hear the voice of our friend Andale. And here we go.
Well, if you want, I guess I could always tell you the story of how I got my job.
Yes, please.
Yes, please.
The illustrious Smoke Daddy, neon installer and designer of Man Neon since 19XX.
Oh, no, actually, I've only been running the crew since like 2001, but I was on it a couple years prior. No, I got my job because I was actually sober enough to keep standing. I guess I should start back before that, a week or two. My wife and I were in the middle of a disagreement, and we drank a lot. I was a prop maker in Los Angeles, and I would work for a couple weeks, and I'd have a couple weeks off. And I liked the job because it supported the fact that I could be a raging alcoholic, and no one would mind because everyone I worked with was a drunk. And oh yeah, the prop shops I used to work in, like the only time we ever went on strike was because we were working in a shop which will remain unnamed. There was a soda machine that only had silver bullets in it. And a lot of us couldn't drink Coors. It was just horrible. So we went on strike.
Never.
Yeah, we went on strike so there'd be Miller and Budweiser in the machine as well.
Thank God.
Yeah. So it was a short strike, but we were successful. Long live
Solidarity.
the dictatorship of the proletariat. Yeah. So my wife and I were in an argument, and the house that we lived in had objects to art almost everywhere and weapons. Sculptures and knives and firearms almost everywhere. It's amazing we didn't injure each other more. No, she picked up a Green River knife off a table and took a piece out of my leg. Fortunately, the EMS lived next door. So
Is this a 3-inch blade? Is this a 6-inch blade?
No, it's a butcher knife. Well, the Green River knives come from the Green River foundry in, where is it, New Hampshire? It's the oldest knife foundry in the country. They take barrel bands, because it's actually surprisingly good steel, and turn those into knives. And they've been those knives have been along in America as long as there's been America. They went with Lewis and Clark out to the Pacific Ocean. they've always been there anyway. They're beautiful looking knives, and I just happened to have one on the table that was next to her when she stood up and went after me with a knife. Oh boy, I like women with passion. Anyway, long story short, after I stitched myself up, or got myself stitched up.
It's more badass if you stitch yourself up.
No, I didn't do it. My neighbor did. He was an EMS, an emergency medical technician. And he came in quite handy when we lived next to him. I missed that woman. I decided it might be best to leave town for a week or two, let her calm down, because she did have a point in our argument, even though I disagreed with how she did it. And so I got my buddy Primo, who needed to leave town as well. He had far too many moving violations. And we figured we'd go to Nevada, because Nevada's a really nice place. And what we used to do is we used to get big buckets of dirt from outside of, mine shafts, and then sit in hot springs all night and pan it out. And we'd never get enough to keep us going for very long, but enough to forestall having to go back to civilization for a week or two, and it gave us something to do at night. So we were actually up not far from where, the Black Rock Lake was, and we went into Winnemucca, went into a bar. I started a conversation with an old man who I later realized was my spirit guide. I've met him 2 or 3 times over the years. Oh boy. Anyway, he started telling me about this Burning Man thing. And he, just happened to have a couple tickets. What did I have to trade for it? And I wasn't all that interested. And all I really had was a half a bottle of Pepe Lopez tequila. And, low rent tequila. Anyway, he said, fine, I'll take it. And he put the tickets down on the table, and I went out to the truck to get the tequila. I came back, the old man was gone. I asked my buddy, Primo, where was the old man when? He said, I went to the head. We closed the bar, he never came back, and I had 2 tickets to Burning Man. And we had the time, so we might as well go. And we showed up, I think it was Monday. And the man was not up at the time. The man was laying on his back. This was back when he was on hay bales.
And what, 20-foot man, 30-foot man?
No, he was the 40-foot guy. This was probably 98. They parked us in Volkswagen camp, which was really cool. Those guys are out of sight. And the first thing we did was went out to see the man. And we're looking at him. He's laying on his back. And all of a sudden, this pickup truck, blue pickup truck with a silver, cap, kind of lurches up to the man and stops. The door opens, and out comes a whole shower of MGD bottles. It was fantastic, just to see how many could actually fall out of a car that was being driven. And the person who was driving it was so drunk, he didn't even give the pretense of standing up. He just kind of slid out of the door like he was on, casters or something. And he actually got some distance from the car, because the bottles were kind of just rolling him down the playa. And he looks up and he says, "My name is Neon Dan. I'm supposed to put neon on the man, but I'm too drunk to move. Can someone please do it for me?" And that's when Primo grabbed my arm, stuck it into the air, and since we could still actually move, we started doing the job. It took us a day or two, but we got the neon on the man, and we've been actually doing it ever since.
Had you known about installing neon prior to that?
Oh, yeah, I'd done a couple jobs, yeah.
I don't believe in synchronicity.
Well, it's a duocracy. That's the whole concept of what Burning Man was. Has you
largely still is. I mean, as big and bureaucratic as it is, it's all volunteer.
Sort of.
Sort of. Mostly.
It skates the line between volunteer and exploitation. And I think it would be dishonest not to admit that.
Labor of love?
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, one change that I see in the last several years has the corporative structure has taken place on the playa more and more is dusty adventure to another day at the office. That a lot more of the bureaucratic structures are being, required when it used to be, we'd go out to the desert and throw a bunch of shit in the air and hopefully it stayed there. That kind of structure can't survive this kind of growth. I understand that. It's just something to see what was a religion turn into a corporation.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I think you have a good dichotomy with your two guests today. My Burning Man resume consists of I'm gate and perimeter dilettante, helped put together a nice little homie theme camp somewhere deep on the 3 o'clock side, and I'm blocked by Burning Man on Twitter for being mean to Grover Norquist. I had cause to spend a lot of time, as you mentioned earlier, at the airport this year, and it was. There's a lot of great things about the airport. Burning Sky is awesome. The people who put together the airport are terrific. The scenic flights are a wonderful thing that the pilots do for people.
That anyone can take advantage of.
That's right. The increasingly the function of the airport is arrivals. And, the folks coming off of these planes are not uniformly, but often they are the nightmare Bloomberg business article about Burning Man and how it's becoming Bilderberg / Davos kind of, power elite rave. I saw people coming off planes with 40 paper shopping bags and no way to carry them, and asking how they can call an art Uber to get them to their camp 3 or 4 miles away.
That hurt. That hurts the spirit, like whatever's in the cockles.
I had a European stranger ask me to take his cigarette butt
To where?
away from him. He was done with it. And, here, let me teach you something. Pick a pocket. Put the butt, in the. Now you got a trash pocket.
And I have to say, I think Europeans are uniformly surprised at the lack of places to put your cigarette butts.
Sure.
I have picked up a hell of a lot of cigarette butts out of the playa, and a surprising number of them are Galwas.
I've seen. Wow. I don't even know how to spell that.
I had like a kind of like San Diego surfer looking kind of guy like ask me for the Wi-Fi password.
Oh, that's great.
At the airport.
Have you ever been to the Hershey's Chocolate Factory in Hershey, Pennsylvania? There is a wonderful It's a Small World style ride there called the World of Chocolate. And when you get to Hershey's, you enter through like the gift shop and candy store. And a portion of that is this ride that takes you through a simulated like jungle through factory to packing plant of how they make Hershey's chocolate. Wow. And there's a wonderful jingle. It's one of the most wonderful jingles that anyone has ever written. Hershey's chocolate, it's a Hershey's chocolate, it's a Hershey's chocolate world. And at the end of it, they give you a piece of chocolate. And we need something like that on 530 between the airport and the city.
And Enculturation Station?
I used to be really upset with the plug and play people. I used to think that they're, like destroying my festival. But I've come to accept that it's just part of the process. Let's just see where this goes.
If you're not familiar with the concept of plug and play camps, here's a little primer on this plague infecting the soul of our city. Even though Black Rock City is built on a foundation of non-commodification, there will always be some greedy assholes looking to cash in. These nasty buggers sell curated Burning Man experience to wealthy folks, offering them luxury amenities, gourmet meals, and exclusive on-playa parties. They cordon off whole blocks of the city with giant ugly motorhomes, creating big, unfriendly chunks of the city where suddenly the party stops. These creeps hire so-called Sherpas, paid servants who take up the tickets and don't actually participate in the event.
No one likes vibe-killing capitalist cum stains, and we like these vibe-killing capitalist cum stains even less. It is everyone's civic duty to shame and harass plug-and-play camps. Find a blank block of RBs, barge right into their common area and have a seat. See if they have any beer for you. Ignore the famous people and treat their Sherpas like honest-to-goodness human beings. Make them call a ranger to negotiate your exit. At least everyone involved will be having an authentic Burning Man experience.
If we wanted to start Burning Man again, that's fine. We'll get a shotgun, a bunch of shotgun shells, a couple dogs, and some beer, and we'll go out to the desert where no one knows where we are and blow things up. With the rich and entitled, on one hand, I tend to answer them with love. But on the other hand, I do see them as an endless supply of like people to play really mean practical jokes on.
Oh, they're marks.
Because
Such
they've never
great
seen
marks.
it. So, all the beautiful ones. I have a car, I have a staff pass, and I can drive around all week, and I do. The problem about going out to the airport is you do get commandeered. I regularly get commandeered, and whatever they give me, it doesn't matter because I'll take them as far away from where they want to go as I can arrange and convince them this is exactly where they want to go and get all their stuff out really quick and then disappear in a cloud of dust. Give them a Burning Man experience.
That is loving.
Yeah, that is
Yeah.
actually a very loving way to solve the problem.
Uh-huh. That's far more loving than sending people to the DPW ghetto, which is my go-to.
The thing is, members of DPW, even though they come off as standoffish, there literally is no Black Rock City without them, and the investment of 3 to 5 weeks beforehand and weeks afterward as they restore the playa to a state where we, and the Federal Bureau of Land Management, say we have left no trace of our city on the Black Rock Desert.
So remember, friends, DPW loves us. They work hard so we can play hard. So when you run into them into the city, show them some love too. Give them a hug, offer them some water. And remember, fuck your day is just their way of saying I love you. I don't really feel like I'm instigating them by sending them green, silly burners to harass. They live for that.
Folks from across the country and from Europe who have to get out to the playa for the first time and have never been in Black Rock City before, they're not thinking about that trip in any other way than a commerce-based vacation, because those are all the vacations they've been on before. They haven't been out there yet. It's not difficult for someone either willingly or unwillingly to take advantage of them or just take $5,000 from them or $9,000 or $20,000 for this vacation, which is a one-of-a-kind ridiculous thing that they are certainly not prepared for.
Often it doesn't kill you. And
It's not as dangerous as everyone pretends it is.
It's still pretty dangerous. It's dangerous in very different ways than your everyday city.
Well, yeah, but it has all the dangers of your average, city with 80,000 people.
It's got some of the similar ones. You
Yeah,
got to watch out for traffic real bad.
And somebody might get you to invest in a really bad startup idea. There's a lot of peril.
My folks told me that they used the same excuse for the deaths that happened at like hippie concerts in the 60s, like Woodstock. And all of them were just like, oh, yeah. Well, like, a town of like 120,000 people, like they'll have a death.
Yeah, it's not wrong. You can't squeeze a huge number of people together without squishing someone.
And man,
especially if you like oil the whole machinery with as much liquor as you can put in it. Well, I have scars from Burning Man. It is a dangerous place.
That's a topic we're getting little bits on. What's your best Burning Man injury?
Oh, boy. Okay, physically, got sliced up pretty good years ago when I was on a 3-wheel power bike, and it had no headlights, so I was holding an oil lamp in front of me.
like a lantern?
Yeah, lifted it from the lamplighters.
Oh, okay.
Because
This is
in the
making
days
a lot
before
more sense.
in the days before LEDs, the lamplighters actually had a function in this world. It's like, they're beautiful people, and I am glad they exist.
They're an important part of our community.
They're vital. They are vital. I hold
We
this
still
time.
got pennies. We were talking about that earlier. This is a country that can't get rid of pennies.
Those kerosene lanterns look really pretty up on the...
Oh yeah.
Pylons
And there was a
for an
time
hour,
when
hour or
actually, when they were practical forms of light. And I had it on this 3-wheel bike motorcycle, and there was this black tent line that I couldn't see because it was black, and I only have one eye. Clotheslined myself clean on it. I opened up my lips, something fierce. And I saw stars. That could have very easily have been kind of a fatal accident.
Yeah. Absolutely.
I mean,
if it were a couple of inches lower and got you in the throat.
exactly. Yeah, I got a big slash in my face out of that.
I have still never fallen off my bike at Burning Man.
It's a pretty soft landing.
No, it's not.
There's a lot of stuff around, and bikes are heavy.
I had a good face plant from about 4 feet, 5 feet up. And, I heard a crunch, but my nose didn't seem to actually break. But, that was nothing compared to the psychic injury I had from witnessing The
Oh, well, why don't you hold off for
Yeah, I think our
just
engineer
a
is here.
second while the dogs bark. I am going to stop this recording and save this file. Love you, Beth.
The first thing I have to do is fix my own damn voice so I can listen to it.
The fanciest beer we have, Beth?
Aw, I love the fancy spear you have.
And I saved everything that we did in the first.
Wonderful.
It is like 53 minutes. You're welcome.
Oh,
There's some
boy.
stuff we need you to cut out, Beth.
What?
Some shit
It
talking
wasn't
that needs to be
perfect. I was
cut
just
out.
going to take that whole thing.
No. There are
Throw
some
it.
things that should not have been said. in the
Were we
recording
giving out
device.
Seth Beckman's social again?
Those are things we absolutely should be saying. Things were said about certain volunteers in certain people's departments that ought not to have been recorded.
Well,
Yeah.
you guys are going to have to stop talking so much shit. You're making my job harder. Oh my god, you guys, I have to listen to every time your jokes fail over and over again.
You don't just cut that shit away.
No, I know, but sometimes there's something funny. Like, sometimes it starts funny and ends funny, and you just shit the bed in the middle. So you can
often
actually
that's what happens with me.
cut that part out and have something that's funny.
I have an absolute recommendation here. Tribe.com. As far as social media goes.
Does that still exist?
Yeah, it does.
I was on Tribe temporarily. I think I posted naked pictures of myself on Tribe.
Well, most of us
I
have
might
at one
still
time or
be on
another.
Tribe.
Yeah.
But yeah, the Burning Man tribe. It's not dead yet. It's you can shoot a cannon through the place and not hit anybody, but it's still there. So Tribe will let you do it. No,
Also,
we can't
Tribe will let you
die.
post naked pictures of yourself, which Facebook will not. So that
It's not the tribe it once was.
wait, they don't let you put up your naked pictures anymore? They used to have a setting where you could, yes, I'm going to put these naked in, like naked for Burning Man. Topless people, but you could put them in a special area where only people that you were friends with on Tribe could see.
That's the jerk off corner.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I know that corner.
I don't think much of social media, but I don't want to see this particular format to die. Do your best. Go on Burning Man Tribe today and say something obscene. Okay, here's a challenge for you. A Burning Man story that does not have any conceivable drug references.
1, 2, 3, go.
What follows is literally 45 minutes of telling stories about peeing on the playa. So I'm cutting almost all of that. I'm leaving you with, I wouldn't go as far to say the best, but the least incriminating, maybe, of those stories. And you're welcome.
Marine duct tape, a tarp, and a funnel. I mean, right?
They make rubber sheets in all standard sizes.
I try really hard to suppress my feline side, but sometimes I will soak someone's bed in piss for ambiguous reasons.
Here's a great Burning Man story that is also a piss story. I was in one of the trough potties where the fellas enjoy themselves.
One of the
And,
jerk off trough
no,
parties?
no,
Or
no,
oh.
Wait,
Oh,
wait.
potty.
So
The trough potties.
enlighten female listeners
for
here.
the ladies who don't know, on one end of the porta potty banks, the opposite end from the big, comfortable handicap access potty, there's a trough potty where there's a big, long trough along each side, and 8 or 9 fellas can squeeze in there. And
It
all
is
piss at the
tan
same
as
time.
fuck.
More if they really like each other.
And it's
Right?
the best place to empty your gallons of piss water instead of bringing them to the Center Camp Cafe when you leave Burning Man.
It's true. It's super convenient. Don't be shy, ladies. Come right in. As this gal did, I was standing there taking a piss, and that door flew open, and this woman charged in, looked around, said, "Oh my God, has this been here the whole time?" Kicked 1 foot up shoulder height against the wall, and just pissed right in the trough.
Majestic.
What she was so stoked she wouldn't have to wait in line ever again.
No, man, that's
Oh, no.
intolerable. Bathrooms are so few and far between when you need them the most, when you're drinking so much water just to stay alive, and so much more water to dilute the booze so that when you wake up dehydrated the next morning, like, you're also not at a critical level of, like, needing water or your blood turning into crystals.
Burning Man gets better after everyone leaves. Because what you're doing is you're bringing the city back to a natural state. I mean, the problem that I see with Burning Man is that when it's going on, it's not the Black Rock Desert. It's a city of 80,000 people with the same kind of rules, the same kind of structures, and a limited distance you can travel in any given direction. You know, you spend a couple hours picking up little pink triangles off the ground from the top of those single lube things because
I was wondering what that was going to end up being from. Yeah, sure, those foil wrap things.
yeah.
To be fair, it's a hard moment to sort your trash properly.
Well, you know, talk to the ground crew when they go by Orgy Dome, and they'll have a completely different opinion of the situation, I assure you. But once the gates come down, once the fence comes back down and the desert comes back, and you can go in any direction you like for quite an unlimited amount of time if you put your mind to it, then you start seeing the desert again. The sad part about stories with Burning Man is that they usually start off sounding like hyperbole, and then you wander off into left field, and then you'll notice that sooner or later, you know, the audience, the people you're telling the story to, their eyes kind of glass over. So, yeah, usually, you know, it's best to tone down the stories or just simply not tell them at all. What I'll usually say when pressed for a story is that if you go to Burning Man, you'll do something or see something you'll giggle about on your deathbed.
Accuracy Third is engineered primarily by Drunk Beth and ancillarily poorly by D-Day. Our theme music was composed by Jim and Damien. Accuracy Third is produced by Accuracy Third, which is Drunk Beth, D-Day, and Rex. And thank you for visiting Accuracy Third.
Although the name Hershey is synonymous with the word chocolate, today Hershey produces many other famous brands of products as well. Reese's Peanut Butter Cups, York Peppermint Patties, Mounds in Almond Joy, Twizzlers, Payday, Whoppers, and Milk Duds are among the famous brands that have become part of the growing family of chocolate and candy products produced and distributed by Hershey. Before you go, please give us your best Hershey smile. We'd like to add your photo to the Chocolate World Family album. If you'd like a copy to take home, they're available for purchase as you exit.
In 2014, rain at the beginning of the event shut down all motor vehicle traffic on the playa. Staff vehicles could not drive staff to or from their shifts at the gate, outside the perimeter fence, or at other locations beyond the main city. Staff who were already on shift couldn't get relieved, so they worked their volunteer jobs for a dozen or more hours, with no sustenance but the water they came with and the single-serving chips and granola bars they had packed as snacks, which then became their meals.
This wet and wild weather event closed Gate Road. Participants, excited to arrive at Burning Man and start their party, discovered that Gate Road was backed up to the highway.
Only in the desolation of Nevada could anyone call 447 a highway.
And the backup kept getting longer and longer as more and more people arrived to find that still no one was allowed to enter the event.
This literal quagmire was reported on the national news, which resulted in my mom writing me an email about a report she saw that wondered if this was the year we'd cancel Burning Man because all the roads in the city had washed away.
That's when people on the news, and everyone on the playa, started giving the catastrophe competing nicknames.
Oh, I believe you mean Mudpocalypse / Waiting Man of 2014 on opening day, which was delightful. Don't get me wrong, that was awful. No one wanted this to happen. People were stuck for almost 24 hours It was terrible. They had no supplies. Like, the bathrooms filled. It was not good on so many levels. So there's a lot of people who are like, look, my car would be fine driving on this right now. And I'm like, right, you're not wrong. But we're not talking about your car. We're talking about these 20,000 vehicles that are behind you, some of which are heavy box trucks. So,
Woo! Muddin'!
Yeah, right. Yeah, he's like, look, we know how to deal with mud. All you gotta do is you gotta put metal sheeting down over it. That's what they do at some of these festivals, and then you can drive on that. And I'm like, that's genius. Do you have hundreds of miles of metal sheeting lying around? Because we could totally make this happen.
Yeah,
Let's
do you mind
that.
turning the fuck around and going to Reno for that? Because that's a great idea.
I think this is the perfect solution. Let's do this right now. It's like, look, radical self-reliance, you're supposed to come with everything you need to survive. And a lot of people legit didn't, and that's fair. We can mock them for that. And then there were the cases where it was like a caravan of people all in one camp together, and half of them got through and half of them didn't. So, like, the car with all the water got through, and the guys that got stuck were the car with all the bacon. Okay, Burning Man's not like a barter economy, but Waiting Man was. And so they're like, what we did, we cooked all the bacon and we traded it for water. Yeah,
Genius.
good job. Yeah.
And the car with all the lube was doing fine.
Yeah.
They didn't even
were
realize they were
set.
hungry.
BLM guy comes up and is joking with those guys. Oh, hey, too bad you weren't one further ahead in line. You would have made it through before we closed the gate. And I was like, well, yeah, they would have made it through. But they'd be that car that's stuck over there, so I think they actually got the better end of the deal, because that truck that tried to go for it and has a broken axle, I'm not sure anyone really wants to be that. But, yeah, okay, sure. Aren't these guys the unlucky ones with all their bacon? Everyone's been stuck out there. The crew's been stuck out there for 24 hours, with no food or water also, just like the people stuck on the road. It's not like we have special magical powers to, get food or water out in the desert. Our crew leads who've been on shift for 24 hours, not a good day for them.
Gate, a.k.a. Gate Perimeter and Exodus, a.k.a. Gape, a.k.a. those goth kids that by and large aren't the same goth kids from Death Guild, is a team of Burning Man-managed volunteers who deal with all the traffic that comes into and goes out of Black Rock City. They secure the perimeter of the event and make sure no one goes wandering out into the playa wasteland to dehydrate and die. They help everyone escape the event all at once in the fastest way they can safely get you gone. And they hang out at the staff bar, the Black Hole, wearing black boots, black jeans, and black t-shirts, smoking cigarettes around a burn barrel all night, every night.
So I get sent out there on a skeleton crew that's meant to relieve our staff that's been out there for almost a full day. They had food and water to begin with, but that was exhausted. Our crew was really lucky in that they got the shift change done at 6 a.m. right as the rain started. It was the box office that had been on shift for 20 hours, unfortunately. And they were the front lines of dealing with angry people. Aww. Our shift, our crew had only been on for 12 hours at this point, except for the shift leads who had been on longer. When we came out to relieve that crew, they still couldn't go home because we couldn't run the buses, but they could at least go sit and not deal with people. And that became my job and the job of a few other people.
We could see it from
Space.
the little observation areas that we had, and the headlights were just fading off into the distance.
It was
X
bad.
miles away.
So we were kind of joking because a civilization had sprung up in the line at Waiting Man. And so we were like, oh,
that's what happens in D-Lot.
Right. Well, we're like, your new camp address is your lane number, and then your lane, and then the number of cars you are back from the front. So it's lane 4, car 7. That's your camp address.
That's
Remember
great.
that. The people up in the front were joking around. They were all right. We kept them in good spirits. They were tired.
The people in lane 2, car 749.
Yeah, they were not
so
having it, but some of them walked all the way up to the front to tell us just how upset they were. And I'm not really sure why they think we control the rain.
Because it's not a part of the plan.
It was not. Also, the fact that the playa is made of plaster, basically, and you can't drive on it when it's wet because it's plaster.
If it rains out there and you walk across the playa, within 2 or 3 steps, you have like 3/4 of an inch of dripping, plastery, concrete goop.
So it is near the site of what used to be a very large gypsum mine. The mud is literally part plaster when it gets wet, and it will cake onto your shoes, it will cake onto your wheels of your bicycle or of your car, to the point where they will no longer turn. And if it's a bike, it'll just stop rolling. And if it's a car, it will break your axle. And if it's your shoes, you'll get what are called playa platforms. And also then the next year, the soles of your shoes will fall off, I found out. Because
it's pretty damn corrosive.
Yeah, it's awful. Yeah. And so, we had a lot of people that were like so done, and they just decided they were going to walk towards the city. And then, like, couldn't walk after they got, like, 400 feet, and then, like, fell down, and we couldn't rescue them, and then, like, crawled their way back, and it was not a pretty sight. So we had a lot of people make the trek up to the front of the line to yell at us, because that's helping anyone.
It has to be somebody's problem.
Well, it does have to be somebody's problem, and they really, really wanted to make it our problem.
Maybe if enough people yelled at you.
That lady piping up in the background is Creampie, one of Violet's friends since college.
She's also D-Day's wife.
And I'm lucky to have her.
No shit you are.
Let's get back to the story.
Right. So one guy, and like, look, it's a shitty situation. I get that.
Yeah, but you're pulling in overtime.
Yeah, right. Yeah, my salary of 0.
But time and a half.
Time and a half of 0.
Zero
Damn
and
right.
a half? That's dope.
Right. So this one guy, I think he was my favorite, besides the guy that wanted to fix this entire situation with metal sheeting.
I like that.
He was also a gem.
Doer.
He is a doer. To be fair, he came to me with solutions, okay? Not just with problems. This other guy just wanted to offer a problem. He's telling me, like, he and his family, and they have a small child, weren't prepared to be trapped out there they were camping with a big camp, so, they didn't bring everything they needed. Their camp had a lot of their supplies, and they were, had been there for 12 hours, and they had a little kid, and they didn't have enough food and water, and, I'm like, okay, this is, like, legitimately a problem.
Yeah. Actually, what we're out there to deal with.
Right. I'm like, okay, this is a parent, he's scared for his child. And then he's like, I brought millions of dollars of sound equipment out here, and you are preventing me from getting there. And he starts talking about the org, the Burning Man org, and how they never give him support. The org never gives support to the big sound camps, and I mean, that may be true. I really don't know. That's not in my job description. And also,
we're not a music festival.
Right. And also, like, that's just not my job.
Stop trying to make us a music festival.
I don't work for the org, so I'm kind of confused at this point. He's talking about the sound camp, and I was like, well, that sounds really frustrating that you don't get enough support. I'm not really sure how I can help you in this particular moment with that issue. And he just kept repeating the phrase, millions of dollars, as if that was supposed to somehow make me more sympathetic to his cause. And at some point in this process, my shift lead steps in, because this has been escalating verbally. And my poor shift lead, who's at this point been trapped out there in the desert for 20 hours, bless his heart, is taking over dealing with this man. And I sort of walk over to deal with the people who are having, complete breakdowns. And I just keep hearing millions of dollars from this conversation. And it's so hard not to laugh at that. Right back to the millions of dollars of sound equipment, and the fact that he was so close yet so far from his millions of dollars was really what was killing him.
He wasn't in the truck with it. It was in there waiting for him.
It was in the camp.
So he didn't even set it up. Fuck that guy.
No, but it was his. And
can we agree? Fuck that guy.
Is it possible that the sick child's name was
millions of dollars? I'm gonna say I had not considered that. Who knows what this child's playa name is, and maybe it's millions of dollars. Yeah. Because I could see this guy giving that playa name to his child.
Oh, poor little millions.
I think oh, millions of dollars. Oh, you have no
his surname was Ufdollars.
Yes.
We'll have to do some creative editing
Yes,
to
such a
obfuscate
huge
the nature of who is whom.
Yes.
And by we have to do creative editing, we mean Beth has to do creative editing.
Hi, Beth.
Beth.
Thank you for this, Beth.
The creative editing.
It might be wise to not name somebody you're going to tell a questionable tale of.
Yeah, I feel like she
That's
would
some
be...
like pretty good hard
That's
and
very
fast integrity that
responsible
we
of
should be
you.
writing
I
down at
know.
some point
I know.
and like following.
These are
in the
generally very
future.
good rules. I feel like she'd almost be disappointed not having the attribution. Just
she was once on southernbukake.com.
she was on southernbukake.com.
Should I be interjecting things, or can you totally hear me?
Please contribute. So we have this wonderful friend from college who had always wanted to go to Burning Man, and finally was able to go for the first time, and she was so excited. We were there early because we were both working crews. On opening night, we had a bunch of people move in next door, and one of these groups was a father-son team. They were Dutch, living in Colorado. We weren't really sure how old this boy was, but he was enthusiastic to be at Burning Man also for the first time. And so they were setting up camp, and my friend is like, "Hey, that boy's pretty cute," and I was like, "Yeah, okay."
Now, how old are these two?
Well, at the time we don't know.
He looked real smooth.
But they would hang out in our camp always as a pair, because the father, was concerned. Well, he was trying to hit on my friend. So the younger one kept telling stories about high school, and, my friend's crushing on him a little bit, and I was like, okay, look, I'm sorry, but he's telling a lot of stories about high school. Like, you need to find out how old he is. And she's like, no, I'm sure it's fine. I'm like, no, seriously. He's talked a lot about high school. So, of course, his playa name for us was now high school. And I came home the next day from my shift, and she's like, oh my god, it's okay, he's 20. Now, bear in mind, we're all in our mid-30s.
He would the father would insert himself between the son and her.
Physically, anytime the father and
together.
son were in our camp at the same time.
He was literally cock blocking.
He was literally cock blocking his son, but I don't think it had ever occurred to him that his son was going to have any success with these much older women that he thought were obviously in his demographic.
It's important to maintain the highly sexual nature of Burning Man by bringing out all the boundaryless people we can.
There's an assumption you hear about Burning Man regarding how much sex is readily available in Black Rock City. And the truth of it is, there are people having sex with porn stars. In any city our size, someone is having sex with a porn star. Not necessarily you, though. And the really good part isn't the sex.
Although the sex is nice.
Oh, of course it is. But so is stumbling into sudden intense romances and sharing moments with interesting, fun, beautiful people.
Fueling
that
Orgy
criteria.
Dome from the moment she
Yes.
showed till the moment she left.
She got a standing ovation at Orgy Dome. There was some kind of epic orgasm involved that made everyone applaud, and then I guess it was so impressive she was invited to have dinner with the camp that runs Orgy Dome and use their shower.
Wow.
Yeah, so that's my campmate. She's fantastic.
Are there any other? I'd use her stage name, her porn name, but it's the same
It's
as
the
her
same as her actual
Christian
name.
So
That is a bold porn
rules
move.
things out for the radio.
It's a spelling difference, which doesn't play well. I should say, she really is the town crier of all things sex-related. So if there is anything, in your life that involves sex, she will run to the nearest camp and announce that it is happening to anyone who may or may not be interested as loud as possible. So
She woke up our roommate shouting about the differences in types of fake cum and what they use them for.
Yes.
Yeah, and nobody gets to complain about being woken up there.
So
Unless you're in Quiet Town. Shh, a doodle-doo.
well, we should really send the town crier of sex to Hushville sometime.
Oh,
I
that
think
would be delightful.
that would be delightful.
What we gotta do is get her on this show and have her tell her own version of this, which is gonna be so much more detailed.
Oh yes,
Yeah.
oh yes.
I
It's
would
really
like very
great
much to have your
secondhand.
town crier
Yeah.
sex.
It was
for-
the situation where I was heading to my tent, and then my campmate felt the need to town cry my sex
I
experience.
heard about it, but
Yes,
she
you-
wouldn't give me details. Tell
Well,
you that.
she
I don't.
doesn't know.
She was creating interest.
All she heard
Yeah.
was sounds from the tent. Now,
That was the clickbaitiest goddamn thing she has ever said to me.
Yes. I love that you're like, she wouldn't give me
I know a
details.
smidge of information.
Okay, she wouldn't give you details, but Did she or did she not describe in detail the sound she heard from the test?
Oh yeah.
Yes. So when you say
But
detail,
you might
pretend
not
like
want me
they're
to
not
know who you're making those sounds with.
And
Well, she
then there
didn't
were
know.
rising squeals increasing in frequency
No,
for 45
she's
seconds.
I know. I grew up on a farm.
No. She doesn't describe them. She reenacts them.
Delightful.
It is delightful.
It's like a minor bird.
And the best part is the next day having people congratulate you on having a fantastic night and then describe the sounds they heard.
That's one of the things I enjoy most about sex at Burning Man is it's never not public.
It's not, but I gotta say, everyone really should have a town crier to announce it because it really is just a fantastic way to like make new friends and have them know special things about you.
Sometimes your partner is your own sex town crier, and you exit your tent to applause because of the town crying that happened,
please tell me
wife
about
of mine.
Yeah, that was the first time we hooked up at Burning Man, and I came out of the tent. No one applauded because that wasn't my camp.
Well, they didn't know you yet. Yeah, this is my staff camp.
So I just slipped out. I just slipped out in the morning. Had no idea that when he slipped out several hours later, it was to applause.
I did not get any applause either. I just had people come and congratulate me on my evening.
You
The
got
squeaking
better
of the
applause.
shocks were their own applause.
Yeah, no, he was talking about some...
Yeah, a camper that I just happened to build a door for without ever seeing the camper to begin
It
with.
turns out we gave it a really good test, and boy, did those hinges hold up.
Yeah.
That latch. Good latch there. Good job.
The best part about sex in a camper is it's the shortest walk of shame ever.
Yeah, but also
Sounds
it's
like bed
funny
outdoor.
when it's right next to your staff camp. You know, the door just opens onto the road. So it's like everyone watches you go in.
Yeah,
and
the
then-
road to commissary, like not just any road.
No, like right there. Yeah,
And I think it's mine now.
it might be. You should
you
enjoy that
inherited a
trailer.
Can't wait.
Nice.
Fair warning, it's incredibly bouncy.
Great.
But the door latch holds up great.
Oh,
Good job
yeah,
on that.
yeah, no worries.
Man, I would strongly recommend, first of all, not parking parallel to a
I don't
major
care
road.
about that. Wife,
Yeah,
you
no.
care about that?
Yeah.
No, it's pretty funny, though, I gotta say. Like, you know...
I'm married to a pirate.
Were you in the trailer between box office and...
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, the one with the patchy metal door.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, so that was a this year's story.
Yeah.
This year's story.
Yeah, the one that
Yeah,
was
that's
rocking
Spoon.
back and forth a lot.
Like, directly between two staff cams.
And that trailer is kind of eye-catching. Every time I walk past that
Yes,
trailer, I
it-
look right at it because
Yes.
it's got this big, amazing
And
door.
it's bobbing up and down.
Right, and
Sometimes
especially
it's
when it's bobbing up and down.
down.
Because, boy, is that a bouncy trailer.
Yeah, that was chicken sandwich day at commissary. I remember that. That was a day where there was still spinach in the salad
Memorable
bar
day for all
when I
of
got
us,
there.
wasn't it? Anyway, enjoy your new trailer. Because if you want more applause, hey, if you want applause, because I know you didn't get any last time,
Yeah.
I can give you some recommendations.
I give her the slow clap.
That's just your sticky thighs slapping together.
Oh.
You told me that was my scrotum.
Knock knock.
Who's there?
Some guy fucking some girl who's not his wife.
Some guy who's fucking some girl who's not his wife. Who?
Non-monogamy, which is what we're talking about.
That's dreadful. That is just wow. Hi, friends. We're talking about non-monogamy.
And polyamory.
Today, you're going to hear Beth talking with John, her boyfriend, about John's wedding to Kat, his wife. And so we're mentioning non-monogamy because we want to be perfectly clear that Kat, John, and Beth are all good friends who all communicate the details of their relationship to one another and are engaging in these relationships with full knowledge, consent, love, and warmth. But we broach this subject because polyamory, ethical non-monogamy, monogamiciousness is a fairly common feature of Burning Man relationships.
Turns out when you get a bunch of artists and bohemians and craftspeople together for weeks or potentially months on end out in the desert, some things can happen.
Going forward in this podcast, we imagine you're going to be hearing quite a lot of stories with non-monogamous themes. So if you're uncomfortable with this, well, you know, the sexual revolution is a half-century old, so get with it, kids. When our stories drift towards Naganamu.
So when our stories drift, like one's penis to the left, right, downward, or upward.
When we begin to mumble about multiple partners.
You're welcome, Beth.
I challenge you to edit that into something cohesive.
You know what I think I would like? I'd like you to listen to the stuff we did about polyamory. Maybe you ought to do it with us.
Ah, yes. So counterpoint. I hate listening to myself talk about polyamory because I feel like I sound like such an asshole. Like, it's just my viewpoints are really irritating.
Apologize first. Accuracy third.
It's great. I love what you guys say. I don't think I need to be involved. Like, I am... I'm fine.
Okay.
I will save my rant for how creepy monogamy is for our, like, episode that is just all of us sounding like assholes. So, guys, meet John.
Hi, John.
Hey, guys.
Hi, John.
It's nice to meet you.
It's
Likewise.
nice for you to be here.
And John, I'm going to interview you now, and it's going to be kind of awkward.
Please
like,
do.
we haven't been dating for 5.5 years. But you're married.
I am.
You're married to
I've
Kat.
been married for 12 years, long enough that I have to think about it and do the math. Let's say 12 years. We met on an internet date where she thought she was posting a personal ad on the website of Secretary the Movie. So she was looking for a very kinky person. And I was posting an advert on a very kind of like right-wing Seattle local website. Because I just moved there and I didn't know my left from my right. So
Were you still confused by which side of the road people were driving on?
oh my god, yes. Oh my god, yes. So we had a kind of an awkward and weird first date that we both walked away from thinking, well, never mind, but we might hang out and have some fun again. The wedding. The budget was $70. Most of that went on a cake that we got from the Safeway across the street that they spelt my name wrong on. So Kat had to do some surgery on the cake to fix my name.
That's fantastic.
It's easier to take an H away than to add an H.
Right. You just had to take the top off the H and then remove the final N and turn that H into an N. Boom, John.
All of a sudden, it's not a spelling
Yeah.
problem; it's a kerning problem.
Yeah, it was slightly a marriage of convenience in that I was about to be ejected from this country when my work visa expired, and it was an awful lot easier for her to come with me back to England than it was for me to stay with her in America. I have a friend who was very dear to me as a teenager who went to Burning Man when he was 18 and had an experience which he couldn't not share with everybody for a long time.
And this had, if he went when he was 18 and he's your contemporary, this would have been the early to mid 90s?
Yeah, like 95, 96, 97, somewhere in there.
And he was in America when he found out about it, or he was in England?
No, he traveled from England to go there. He was a lot cooler than me when I was a teenager.
You would have had to have been to know about Burning Man in the mid 90s in England as an 18-year-old.
And maybe he might have been 20, but he was certainly like a young man finding himself, and that was part of his process of finding himself for real. Bless him, and I have love in my heart for him, but he is an insufferable git. Burning Man gave him a topic to be insufferable about.
Oh, as it has done for so many of us.
So that was actually my first exposure to Burning Man till I moved to Seattle and hooked up with a crowd of burners, hippies, perverts, / etc.
Our people.
Pervies.
Yeah. I've been to small druggy camp outfits.
What specifically kind of small druggy campouts have you been to before?
This is airing some dirty laundry. I was a teenage juggler. I went to juggling conventions. I pitched my tent around parking lots and spent my days drunkenly throwing things at other morons. And it was beautiful, and I regret none of it.
That sounds like a 70s teen-oriented warning story.
Yeah.
I was a teenage juggler.
Like that, but it's England, so with more tea.
So wait, teenage juggler? Beth, please edit that out.
Yeah, no,
I'm not
that's
even
awful.
justifying that.
I'm mostly offended that I didn't think of that first and decide not to say it. Imagine Burning Man with 120 people and it's in a parking lot. There was one food truck stroke tent where you could buy all of the vegan weirdness you wanted. It was around a theater. So there were shows, professionals would come into town. There were shows in the evenings, and the theater had an awful cafeteria. So it's like this weird mix of hippie festival culture and provincial theater. It's a very family friendly thing, especially during the day. It's open to the public and it's very much a draw, come to workshops. Let's all teach your kids to juggle and they'll have a great time. You'll have a great time. You'll buy a ticket for the show and come see genuinely world-class professionals do mind-boggling things on stage in front of you and go home. And then all the people who have come here for the weekend will get drunk in the car park after you've gone home. As a 16-year-old, I set my hair on fire doing fire poi. That was kind of a rite of passage, right?
Your hair or your dreadlocks?
It has been many years since dreadlocks were even a possibility for me. It is a little community, and there's definitely an analog to Burning Man or to any kind of just annual event where you get the same amorphous, constantly shifting group together on an annual basis. It's a much smaller scale of that. I have friends that I'm still vaguely in contact, kind of Facebook contact with today that I haven't seen since I was 20. If this August I was to go back to that festival, nothing would have changed. We'd get on like a house on fire. We'd all be different, but it would still be the same people doing the same stupid shit.
Are you as proficient as you used to be at juggling?
God, no.
So that would have changed.
Well, that happens with age.
Well, it's because they're used to heavier pins back in the day. The pins they were more dense. They were carved out of hardwood.
When I was your age, I had to juggle uphill both ways.
You needed to know a guy with a lathe so he could spin juggling pins for you. Or you just have to get the old cast-offs from the bowling alley, and you never knew what the weight of those were.
We did take ferrets to a juggling festival, and they might have been the most popular people there.
Ferrets are pretty awesome.
Yeah.
They do tend to dominate a party.
Yeah. I will say I didn't drop a single ferret.
Now, do they ball up when you toss them?
They weren't super pleased about it. It didn't last long.
Did they bite you when you juggled them?
No, but we had an understanding. We'd practiced before the show. Just walk out on stage with cold ferrets.
Did you by any chance sedate these ferrets before walking out on stage?
Yes. Yes. So, you know what catnip is?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
There's a ferret version of that. And it comes in an oil, and you can put it either on the ferret itself, and then it will just go nuts eating itself out. Or you can put it on
maybe find different words.
No,
for those of you out there who aren't Anglophiles, you might not know what eating themselves out
Go ahead. I'm sorry. Go on.
If we potentially did sedate them with some oil to keep them interested in themselves rather than the crowd of drunken idiots hooting at them. My wife and I moved back to the States, and we had a few friends, and those friends had made some new friends, and some of those friends were burners, and one of those friends was Beth. And we moved back in about March or April. Mm-hmm. So, of course, these new friends that we just got back in contact with were like, hey, it's really good to see you guys in 4 months. And we're going to be super busy and talk about nothing else but this thing that doesn't interest you. Our friends were all just absent for 4 months. Mm-hmm. We're just like, well, fuck you guys. And the second you were like, well, after you've heard the stories and you're like, yeah, I'm bored, but it sounds fun. And then eventually you start to come around like maybe I should come do this thing with you. Yeah, so we'd been married for, do the math, 7 years at that point. 8 years, maybe? 7.5 years. We've moved around a lot while we're together, but haven't taken a lot of vacations together. It's not that we're not self-indulgent, we're very self-indulgent, but...
But you haven't celebrated your relationship.
Yeah, it's been kind of implicit. And we were kind of looking for a way to do something significant at Burning Man. So I'll give you a caveat first. Beth asked me about this about a week ago. And the next day I'm sitting at work thinking, shit, man, I've drunk a lot of beer since then. I don't necessarily remember the fine details, but thankfully my wife Kat does. So I went home that night and we sat down to have dinner, and I said, hey, why don't you tell me the story of us renewing our vows, to prod my memory. And she did, and hopefully I'm not just going to repeat verbatim what she said, but we'd very carefully left our wedding rings at home in a safe place, because you don't take anything out to the playa that you're going to be sad that doesn't come back with you.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's wise for a first timer.
Well trained.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. This is what happens when you've been around burners for 4 years before you go to the burn. You know, you pick up some habits.
I just bring more than one wedding ring out.
Well,
I travel with no fewer than 5 wedding rings out to the playa.
we went to Goodwill and spent perhaps $8 each on playa wedding rings to find a day in that they made both of our fingers green and itchy. So, you know, we didn't wear them the whole time, but we took them with us when we were renewing our vows for ceremonial purposes. And we didn't really have a plan in mind. We just went wandering, because who knows what you're going to find, right? There's sideshows, there's things to see, there's art to go and look at and climb on and jump off. And one of the things that we found was a clock tower, I think, with a hamster wheel inside of it, like a human-sized hamster wheel.
Oh, I smashed my face real good on that hamster wheel.
Right?
Yeah.
Why wouldn't you?
It's got a lot of momentum when you try and stop.
Isn't it brilliant? Don't you want to run on it and do yourself a mischief? Carry on, and we get to the temple. I look down at my hand and realize that there's no ring on it, and I turn to Kat and say, this might be a big deal. We might need to go and find my ring. Turn around and make maybe 10 steps when an art car pulls up, and there's a lady in it who's middle-aged-ish, and dressed like the earth that is on the top of her art car, like she has the matching dress. We must have had panic in our faces, because she just looked at us and said, do you guys need a ride? Of course we said, yeah. You know, we're looking for this ring, but we don't really know where we lost. It was one of the most charming and touching short experiences of a person I've ever had, right? Like, she had been in a terrible relationship for many years and had hit the final straw and said, well, fuck it, I'm done. Okay, I'm out of here. And she had walked out and gone to Burning Man. What she owned was what was in her car right then. So she was kind of like trying to figure out how to end her relationship, as Kat and I were recognizing the different shape that ours was in compared to when we were married. So it was this short, brief, intense experience with this lady where, like, for about 10 minutes, all the three of us just like slowly drive across the playa crying at each other. You know. And, you know, we stopped at a few places and looked around for the ring and got back to this hamster thing. Just as some other bunch of people were playing with this exhibit, as we're looking around, a few of them see us looking around and say, hey, what are you looking for? Like, you need help looking? So we had like 40-odd people in maybe 100-foot radius slowly walking around with their heads down, staring at the ground, just like I'm getting kind of bummed out by this. Mm-hmm. Like, this was like a big deal that we were working on, and yeah, it kind of went pear-shaped. English for fucked up. Until one of these, looked like a 16-year-old kid, just goes, you know, there's a door in the bottom of this thing, and you can get underneath it and find all the shit that people lose when they're in it.
That's a really smart design choice.
Right?
Good job, giant hamster wheel, people.
Yeah,
Right?
who has that much forethought at Burning Man?
Right.
Long time experienced burners.
You know, there you go. There was my fake pretend $8 Walmart wedding ring. Our friend in the art car was over the moon that this was some, like, redemption that relationships could work for her. So she drove us all the way back to the temple, weeping the whole way, hugging us both. Like, it's 11 o'clock in the morning. The temple is heaving with people. We look at things and we take in the spectacle and kind of, like, you know, absorb the ambiance. It's a weirdly powerful place, right? There's a few hundred people being surprisingly quiet. So, you know, we turned to each other, and when I asked Kat about this, she said, I don't remember anything of what we said to each other. I don't remember any of that. I remember before it and after it. I've only had a few experiences in my life that were like that. That was one of them. Another one was when I parachuted out of an airplane, like between jumping out of the airplane and looking up to see the parachute that tells me that I wasn't going to die. So there was clearly some like heightened something going on there, but neither of us can remember it. But the next thing we both remember is like let's say 15 people around us, because we're up on a balcony, and it's just like the 15 people who are closest to us start clapping.
In the temple. That's
beautiful.
Usually reserved for crying for entirely different reasons.
Oh yeah, I had a good crying visit to it earlier in the week, like the day before or two. Yeah. That's what it's there for.
To go and cry at.
Yeah, sure.
The temple, where you can cry.
Yeah.
I only go first thing in the morning, so there's as small a crowd there as possible, and you can really move through there and look at all of the ways that people are mourning the different people in their lives that either have passed or haven't been able to go to Burning Man, or things about themselves or their own lives that they need to work through. And I can't be crowded with so much of that. The 20 or 30 people that are there, that 5:45 in the morning when I decide to stop by sometime during the week, that's overwhelming enough, let alone like a huge crush of people who are really having an emotional moment. God, that you've kind of got to cope with just from being around that much empathy and that much discharge of emotion.
Sure, or you can just avoid it like I do.
I did that for years.
Yeah, it works well for me.
But the architecture of it has been beautiful
It's
the past couple
way
of years.
too pretty to just avoid.
Oh, no, I don't. I like bike around it and look at it from distances. I have feelings about it from distances, but like you get in too close and then it's like, oh no, I'm going to just start crying because there are about 20 people crying around here.
That's okay. Sometimes it's okay to just start crying.
Starting crying is like a functional part of being a person, Just go to the temple, get it over with, and get out.
This year, a good friend of mine died this last year, and I actually ran into one of his best friends, like, happenstancely on the playa. Like, we were playing a game of kickball, and we're randomly assigned to the same side, and he was someone who, they had played D&D together when they were kids, and we'd gone out raving together because we were cool teenagers, and then
Did you wear your candy necklace?
Oh,
And your Jinko jeans?
I didn't have Jinko jeans. Those are expensive.
Did you call it going to a rave?
Shut up. We'd gone out and partied together, and then Jason drank himself to death at 33. Yeah. And I ran into his friend out there, and he was, let's go out to the temple together. Remember, Jason, you do that. I brought a sweatshirt out there for him, and I basically biked past the temple, threw the sweatshirt at the temple, and ran away. That was it. Like, my morning, I don't know how to do it in sort of that space. I appreciate it. The first couple of years when I went there, I really appreciated it because I wasn't personally mourning anyone. I was just like walking around feeling lovely about the space that was provided. But once I got more fucked up and lost more people, I was like, fuck. Ugh.
All of a sudden, this is real.
Yeah.
I've kind of seen it as a emotional lubricant. It's an easy access to catharsis, perhaps for some of us that struggle to get there by ourselves.
Yeah,
like,
says the guy I've seen cry like twice in our entire relationship. Like,
is that a lot or is that not enough?
That's
I'm not sure what you're saying here.
Well, it's nice to be able to just go somewhere where you know that that's completely appropriate,
right?
And you can engage in those feelings, deal with them, have them, and then walk out the other side of the temple, and there's some art to go distract you.
I think it is the beating heart of the whole city. Mm-hmm. Personally, I just can't get too close to it.
And it is very often the most beautiful thing out there. There have only been a few temples that haven't
sucked.
Really blown me away. I wouldn't even say they suck. They're all pretty amazing. Some of them just haven't quite rung my bell the way they usually do. There was the weird Martian sculpture garden.
The chessboard?
Yeah.
That was my first temple. And I didn't get the temple. I certainly didn't understand the need to not spill beer all over Beth's backpack.
That is not the first nor the last beer that we'll get on that
Correct.
backpack.
But
That's true.
Could you get me a beer while you're
There's a sopping towel over there. John, do you have a playa name we should be calling you?
No, I do not.
Fabulous.
John is pretty
I am-
innocuous.
I am slightly anti-playa names. Partly, I think, I attribute that to my exposure to the BDSM community before I got to the playa community.
That's one of the reasons I hate playa names is because of the BDSM names.
Yeah, they're like the more ridiculous version of that.
BDSM names are the worst.
Thank you, sir.
They're pretty bad. I think that Ren Fair nicknames are also pretty bad.
Ooh, fair enough. I don't know many Ren Fair nicknames.
When you're there, it's kind of enforced.
Ren Fair nicknames are enforced?
Because you're period, and like everybody is a thing.
You're not
of
period.
another
You don't
thing.
have cholera. You're
period.
pooping in a porta potty. You're
No,
not fucking
There's
period.
cholera in that
pooping in a
porta potty.
privy.
Did
When
you
you're
ever have a
forced to
camp
have a
name?
nickname like that, you're going to either choose a completely irresponsible nickname, or somebody is going to give you a nickname that you hate and grudgingly have people call you, and that's a terrible situation. That's why I like that. Some of our friends, like their name is Beth and their playa name is Drunk Beth, because Beth was drunk one night. And boom, that's how you get your playa name.
I went for 4 years before I got a playa name that stuck, and boy, howdy, Drunk Beth stuck.
Well, I mean, Drunk Beth, I haven't gotten a playa name at all.
Really?
Yeah, never.
Rex.
Rex isn't a playa name. Rex is a radio handle because my real name is inaudible on the radio.
Wrong.
And in case my listeners are wondering, my real name is Wall.
Just the sound of a whale call.
It really is. It's so bad when I answered the phone for a living. I answered my phone as Sven. Nobody misunderstands you when you say your name is Sven.
I thought I was rare being 3 years in, and well, it was also I resist them because I don't like any of them. And fuck you if you call me something I don't like. Drunk Beth, I don't. This is as warm as I've ever felt about a playa name.
I originally went to Burning Man and tried to get people to call me Beatbox. Not because I can beatbox.
I'm going to be honest, part of my reticence about playa names in general is because a dear friend of mine who shall remain nameless picked his own playa name, and I just felt that was in poor taste.
Oh, it is.
Yeah, it is.
terrible. I've felt really uncomfortable on having to pick my radio handle, and that's not just something I did for convenience. There's really regulations about what you call yourself on the radio.
Rex and D-Day both refer to this as the radio because they're old. This isn't the radio, this is a podcast. But when Rex is talking right now, he's speaking about the radios that they use at Burning Man to communicate with each other when you're part of like staff or who the fuck gets radios?
Because walkie-talkie isn't cool. It's quite possibly the most immature name for really important formative technology. Like such a stride forward in communications networking. And it sounds like a toy for a 2-year-old.
So if we generalized it out, we'd call a rifle a pointy shooty.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, cars, go roomies.
I think we could probably regulate guns more easily if we called them pointy shooties.
Shooty bangies. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm gonna go take my shooty bangy to shooty bang some skeet.
So yes, when I'm talking about radios, I'm talking about the walkie-talkies that volunteers use to communicate. In particular, I used it a lot when I rangered. Every ranger has a radio. Important thing for you to know out there. Every ranger has a radio.
And every person on a radio needs a very distinct call name.
2 syllables at least.
And hard consonants. At least one good hard consonant. Hence Rex. Rex on the radio. That's me.
Rex.
Hi, friends. I also had a surprise wedding at Burning Man. In fact, my story is kind of parallel to yours. I had a very, very cheap wedding. We got married on the beach in Oregon, on the Oregon Dunes, in the one spot where you can camp without paying. On the entire Oregon coast, the one free camping spot. And my best man was unable to make it because he's a criminal and a lowlife and had bad ID. Those are not connected facts. But he felt very bad about not being able to board a plane because of his terrible ID. And as soon as he realized this was going to be the case, he began planning us a secret surprise wedding. He sent emails to the entirety of my department, my volunteer department, behind our back, set out this massive plan to redecorate a piece of infrastructure into a wedding chapel, sent my wife and I off all day on bizarre wild goose chases disguised as important work activities. When we showed up back in camp in the middle of the day, confused, frustrated, and slightly angry, we found ourselves stuffed into absurd wedding clothes, led into a group of all our friends at Burning Man, read 2 wildly hilarious wedding vows by 2 fantastic priests, and then taken on a photographic tour of all of the wedding chapels on the playa so we could have a whole array of wedding photos.
So I'm a little confused. Were you married against your will?
No, I was remarried with
without prior knowledge.
Without
with
prior
limited
knowledge.
notice.
Yes, with no notice whatsoever.
That's funny. Creampie and I also had an incredibly cheap wedding at the only place in San Francisco's Park Service where they don't make you pay to rent the place because they couldn't imagine anybody wanting to rent the place to do anything with. And that's a park called Wormwater Cove, which in San Francisco is colloquially known as Toxic Beach, which is where me and my friends, Beth, when we moved to San Francisco, we went to the raves.
Back in the day.
Back in the day when we had the raves by the bay.
Did you hold a glow stick in each hand and do a glow stick dance for your friends?
I'm not gonna say in each hand, but I definitely did dance with lights and was super cool when I was doing it. So when we went to Burning Man, I didn't want to have a wedding there, mostly because I don't like plans in general, and at Burning Man in specific, I hate being required to be someplace at some time. So we decided to have a reception instead.
Nice.
Because that's just a party. And anyone who wanted to come out with us could meet us at the Man at 6:30. And it was the year of the 100-foot-tall man. 2014, there was the 105-foot-tall man that was standing on the playa. And underneath his right foot, if I'm not mistaken, was the breakers to turn on all of the LEDs and the neon, which we got to do. And then we got our pictures taken in front of the man. And because the man was so tall that year, all of the photos of Creampie and I are really oddly foreshortened. We look super pear-shaped because, like, Violet had to lay down on her back and shoot up at us to get these photos. So, like, it looks like I have the largest ankles imaginable. And at some point during our reception, I'm talking to our friend, and he points out to me that he hasn't done it in 25 years.
Here's what I'm going to put out there.
Okay.
I am not opposed to people telling drug stories.
Yeah.
I think it would be really smart if we didn't.
It's a really good point.
Because we're the only consistent thing on the
Mhm.
show. Other people, we can obscure their identity.
Fair enough. The 3 of us will not tell our personal drug stories, but we allow other people to tell their drug stories.
Absolutely.
Okay, cool.
What's your last name, John?
What's your social?
Spanky Bananas?
So, John Spanky Bananas, do you have any drug stories?
Is that hyphenated?
Underscore. Spanky Ban underscore Nez.
The S is a $sign too.
I mean, does weed even count as drug stories?
In Nevada, yes, because you can go away for like 4 years, 15 years.
Yeah.
Even though Burning Man seems like a state unto itself, Burning Man still exists within the state of Nevada. Now, I would like to say that neither Rex nor I are lawyers, so please take what we're saying with a grain of legal salt. What we do have in front of us is the Nevada Laws and Penalties sheet from normal.org. That is NORML.org. They have been working to legalize marijuana across the country for a couple decades now, to normalize marijuana use, as it were. Knowingly maintaining a structure used for drug offenses in Nevada is a felony, which carries with it a mandatory 1 to 6 year penalty and a $10,000 fine. We're talking about knowing maintaining a structure used for drug offenses. That could be your tent, that could be your living container, that could be your camper.
your cute little dome with the hookah in the middle.
If that structure is from 100 pounds to a ton, which is 2,000 pounds, that would be your tent. But if you have some sort of a living container, or if you have a trailer or a camper that you're staying in, chances are you're in the 2,000 to 10,000 pound range.
D-Day, I think you're reading this all wrong.
Yeah?
Yeah. I think these are two different things. I think the top one is a felony for knowingly maintaining a structure. The next 3 columns are civil penalties that can be tacked onto your possession charge based on the weight of your pot.
Nobody has 10,000 plus pounds of pot.
Well, sure, dealers do. It's the...
So it's not the weight of the structure?
No.
Like I said before, this is an example of how poorly we understand the laws governing marijuana use, sale, delivery, possession, and transit in Nevada.
Your takeaway here is that the Accuracy Third podcast cautions against doing illegal things in highly repressive situations. And the fact that you can hear us smoke pot right now doesn't matter because I have a card.
Okay. You can hear it so incredibly clearly. It's just like in the foreground.
Yeah.
It's not like we're saying who's doing it. Someone could be smoking a cigarette.
You and I are doing entirely legal things right now.
Yeah. I'm taking my medicine.
Yeah, no crime.
Which sometimes I get off a Wheel of Fortune. Because the pharmacy is insane in California.
I got medicine for my birthday. They sent me an email and said, "Come in anytime this week. We have medicine."
Oh, that's insane. I love the idea of going into a CVS or Walgreens and getting like your prescription for erythromycin filled, and then they have you spin the Wheel of Fortune, and you win like some breath strips and like a Tylenol. Well, you wanted the Prozac, you didn't get that.
Come on, Viagra! Come on, Viagra!
Yeah,
Sorry,
yeah, a case of condoms, toilet paper. Like, wouldn't that be a great commerce experience if every one of them had some sort of game of chance attached to it as a bonus?
Safeway these days will let you play a shitty game of Monopoly.
Yeah, I saw that. I'm not doing it.
I've asked them to stop giving it to me because it's just putting trash in my backpack.
No, so when people decide that they want me to play games with them, I play games with them. And I've had this interaction 3 times at Safeway already where they've said, "Do you play Monopoly?" And I say, "Yeah, doesn't everyone?" And they say, "No, for the store." And I say, "I'm pretty sure you're not on that board." They're like, "No, we're doing a promotion." And it was like, "I want a game of Monopoly?" It's going to be loud, Beth. It's going to be true. See?
Yeah, that door is the one you're shutting.
See, so there's a thing in front of it, and it's Beth.
The Accuracy Third podcast is recorded in large part in the garage of the House of Nails and Unicorns.
As Creampie and I are general makers of things, the garage is filled with our making things stuff and acts as our workshop and our repository of gigantic cans of muralizing paint. And I also run a nonprofit, so we're also surrounded by wood and bottles of wine for a gala.
And so many children's toys.
Yeah.
Like a creepy amount of children's toys.
But I'm not creepy, and neither is my nonprofit.
Well, the nonprofit's not creepy. So if you notice echoes, the sound of dog toenails on linoleum,
trucks going down the 45-degree hill with their brakes squealing,
interesting neighbors being interesting,
I refer to them as belligerent.
All of the things are artifacts of our, let's say, organic setting.
Yeah. Yeah, we need to move your chair out of way. It's not going to stop.
Hang on.
Okay, yeah, no, Beth just has to get out of the way of the sensor, and she is. Okay, nobody move.
It does look like there's a blood stain on it right there, doesn't it?
Right. Oh, there is. That's from our last Beth. That's we have to differentiate last Beth with Drunk Beth.
I have a
prefixes.
What's your question?
Why are we wearing headphones? I can't hear anyone's voice through these headphones.
Oh, that's a problem.
They're just decorative. No, you should be hearing things from it. Is it plugged in? That's usually a problem.
It's plugged in over there.
Yeah, it's going up.
I don't know. I mean, I like them. They make me feel really professional. But
Sure.
Yeah, my ears
I
are
got
warm. Let me know when you're recording.
We've been recording for a while.
Great.
Yeah, we don't cut.
Do I need
here.
to
Beth
introduce
cuts.
myself, or you'll introduce me?
Well, please introduce yourself.
Okay. Hi, I'm Creampie.
Hi, Creampie.
Hi.
Welcome to the basement studio. Creampie.
Okay. So yeah, it was my friend's first year, and they were coming to Burning Man, and they had heard that you're supposed to bring, some kind of interactive thing. Their interactive thing was going to be like a playground, and they brought all these like swing sets out. They unfortunately camped really close to Kidsville, where all the families camp. They kind of became this unintentional babysitting camp where all of the hippie parents would drop off their kids and then go out and experience Burning Man. And this poor camp full of people that had never been there before ended up having this like de facto responsibility over everyone else's children, which they did not want at all. And
way to go, hippie parents. Way to fucking go.
That's how you get feral kids.
Right?
Yeah.
Oh, the place was just swarming with kids. These are not professional swings or professional people. The kids were falling off, hurting themselves. They had no idea what to do with these like other people's injured children. And
Take them to medical.
It was like not their responsibility. So finally, they go, okay, you know what? We are sick of having to leave someone in camp at all times to watch other people's abandoned children on our swing sets. We are all going to leave, and we're going to write a big sign on there that says, adult swings only. And they put it up there, and they all went out and had a great time at Burning Man, and they came back. And there was just people having sex all over their swings.
Right next to Kidsville.
That's beautiful. Look, if you take your kids to Burning Man, they're gonna see some people having sex.
Not the roving packs of people having sex with kids anymore, though. Not since NAMBLA got booted.
Yeah, that art car hasn't gotten approved in years.
It's a shame, too, because it was a really fine piece of work. They put a lot of time and energy into that art car.
Hello, everyone. This is Beth, Drunk Beth. Oh, fucking should murder D-Day for giving me that guy. Hey, everyone, this is Drunk Beth, and I wanted to start off today's show with an apology, because that's such a good, strong start. Hi, this is Beth, and I just wanted to introduce the introduction of this show, because brevity is not our strong suit. You might notice, once we get into the interview portion of today's episode, that the audio sounds like absolute garbage, like rotting baby diaper garbage. So it isn't that we recorded this audio in a metallic bucket. It is that I forgot to turn the mixer on to the recording thing. I promise you that the next dumb mistake I make with the audio will be completely different than this one. So I'm sorry, and here is D-Day and Rex, here to introduce our guest today.
So, Rex, today we've got someone on the podcast who is near and dear to my shriveled, blackened, corrupted, sarcastic, sardonic heart.
That would be Mr. Andy, a.k.a. Dandy, also known by some lucky few as O-Ring von Braunflower.
To some, yes. Not to me.
So when did you get to know Dandy?
First week of college in central Pennsylvania, all the way back in 1997.
Oh, the hoary days of the middle 90s. Were you both wearing flannel?
I believe I had a green and cream flannel back then, which was my favorite flannel.
Now, here is the key question, the $10,000 question. Was that flannel worn as a shirt or a very heavy belt?
Both. Hated wearing them as belts. I don't have much in the caboose. And the second I tie a shirt around my waist, that shit starts falling right the fuck off.
And that was my 90s, ladies and gentlemen.
I think that was all our 90s. So you met Dandy in college.
Yeah, not a lot of bubble butts wearing flannel shirts, it turns out. I met Dandy in college. I am a particular individual, and in this particular instance, I was an individual who was not entirely sure how to make friends at college. If you lived in my dorm and your door was cracked, chances are I was going to bust in and say hello at some point, which I did one day, and I found a girl that I had met during freshman orientation and was a little bit keen on. And I found this guy, Andy, who was also a little bit keen on this same girl. And I wanted to hate him. I was just way too enamored with who he was and what he was doing and how excited he was about the things he was talking about.
And now the two of you collaborate in theater and other projects?
Yeah, we run a theater company together. We've written 4 full-length shows together, a whole slew of short plays and sketches. I helped him make his cat tower. He's moving up to Portland.
Oh, as all hippies do.
As all hippies do. As we've been saying lately, when the going gets tough in San Francisco, it's not the tough who moved to Portland, but he sure as shit is.
Aww.
Because I'm fucking petty. All right, Beth? You like that? You like that new knowledge about me? Fuck you in this microphone therapy, Beth. This is Dandy. Asshole.
When I was doing all the drugs, yeah, I mean, I'll give you I was geographically in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. It's a lot nicer now, but it was pretty dank. Literally dank.
Yeah,
not
wet and cold.
Yeah, not hippie dank. I mean, like, actually, like, wet and cold and unemployed. And I would work 3-day shifts and just cut loose for, like, 5 days after that. I used to drink a bottle of whiskey every single day, and then when I wasn't working, I would, like, mix it with heroin and whatever else. I'll tell you all about it. Yeah, I keep it to myself because I think people mostly don't want to hear about it. But if you're asking, then yeah, sure. I was an uncomfortable kid, just naturally uncomfortable. As soon as something turns the volume down on that, you're just like, oh, that's it. Now I can do life. I used to smoke a lot of weed when I was a kid. Like, I'd smoke it all the time. I would sell just enough to keep myself supplied. I'd smoke before school, at lunch. I was also on Ritalin. Shitloads of Ritalin. Oh my god, you guys. Right now, I think they give adults take like 10 to 15 milligrams. They were giving me 35 3 times a day when I was like...
Holy shit.
When I was like 8 and weighed like 100 pounds.
Whoa.
But, like, I had to take it in the morning before I woke up. Yeah, my parents put me on it. I mean, I think they meant well. I wasn't doing good in school. I was super hyper and everything. I mean, I wasn't like awful. There was this like 2-year period where like they were putting all these kids on Ritalin, and I mean, I remember not liking it. I remember I had insomnia constantly. So in addition to being kind of weird to begin with, then that's going on. So
right,
I mean,
not sleeping.
So I'm not sleeping.
Always altered.
I'm not eating. I have to go to the nurse to eat my lunch because they know I'm not eating. So I'd have to take my lunch into the nurse and like eat it in front of her, and I still didn't even want to eat. And whatever. I mean, it wasn't a big deal. I mean, I wasn't completely isolated. I had friends and everything, but I just fucking felt wrong all the time. Yeah, as soon as I had access to booze, like I had the shakes by the time I was like 19.
Wow.
Yeah, when I was 19 years old, I was the end of my freshman year of college. I was 100% physically dependent on alcohol. And I did okay in my classes. I was functional. And yeah, so I remember I got home and I realized I was like, I drank this 6-pack and couldn't even feel it. And I was just like, all right, I got to dry out. I like locked myself in the room and I didn't know it was coming. That was like the first time I legit DTs. Like DTs, actual snakes coming out of the wall, like train spotting, like
Jesus.
DTs. Wow. It was fucking wild, like the worst fever I've ever had. That happened, and that was when I was just like, uh-oh, I'm an alcoholic. Or something like that happens. I guess some people can just like denial their way through that. It's like, no, I'm pretty sure most 19-year-olds don't deal with stuff like this. I never did the denial thing. So I pretty much was just like, all right, I'm not going to stop. I'm going to try to make it work. So I did for like the next 7 years. Once I was 21 and like just the hassle was gone out of it, I drank a bottle of whiskey every single night, like a bottle of whiskey.
Whoa.
Yeah, I would do one of those just about every day, either throughout or before bed. And then if I didn't have to work, I could like drink like a whole handle. So I was always doing that. I moved all around. I did this. I always worked and, or saved up money and then traveled. And like out in Phoenix, I went on like a binge with Coke too because it was really cheap and easy. And and then in Pittsburgh, just one night, I drank my liter of vodka And I just couldn't, I didn't even catch a buzz. Nothing happened. I finished the whole thing and nothing happened. And that was it. That was it. That was the end. This, like, really bad punchline at the end of a long joke. This has more or less ruined my life, which is okay, because I'm happy to do that if I can get drunk. But, like, now you can't even really reliably get drunk anymore. Yeah, how about that, dude?
And so how old were you at that point?
I was 26. I lived in a halfway house outside of Baltimore for like 3 months. That's where if you're just out of rehab but you have nowhere to go, or you're like trying to get out of jail, they'll step you down there, and if you can pass your tests, you can get your sentences reduced and stuff like that. And what it basically is the worst roommates you can possibly ever imagine. I'm in there with like 11 other dudes, all different ages, from all different places. Some of these guys are just like trying to not have to stay in jail. Some of them's parents are making them be there. Some of them are like husbands who are trying to satisfy their wives but have absolutely no interest in sobering up. And I mean, you just live day in and day out with these people. And you have to follow all these rules. So you have to leave with 2 of them. So we're in this little town outside Baltimore with like nice people. Nice people live in this town. Not in these halfway houses, but in this town it's full of nice people, and you'll just see these 3 miscreants just kind of schlumping through the town together and like getting dirty looks from everybody. I mean, I actually wanted to be there. I mean, I was legitimately getting my life together, so I wasn't fucking around or arguing with people or breaking rules and stuff. But like, you had to like sign in and out. There was a curfew. All you really do is get a job, live at this place, and go to like lots and lots and lots of AA meetings. That's really all it was. There's not much else to it than that. I came out here. My sister was moving to LA because she wanted to be an actress. I came out here to stay with D-Day because I just needed a new place to be. I didn't want to go back to Pittsburgh. Somebody took me to a Thanksgiving dinner on my first day in San Francisco, and it was a bunch of sober guys. And one of the first things that the first person that I met there told me was that he ran a sober camp at Burning Man. And I was just like, what? And he said, yeah, there's a sober camp at Burning Man. And I had written off the possibility that I would ever go to Burning Man. When you get in early sobriety, I mean, you think your life is over. It's not. It's totally not. It's a misconception. But you think it is. To you, for all intents and purposes. Yeah, you think you're never going to have fun again. You think all the stuff that used to be fun to you is never going to be fun. You think you're not invited to the cool stuff anymore. It's not true. For anybody who is listening, it is not true. But it feels true at the time. And this dude was just like, nah, you can go to Burning Man. Yeah, you can come with us. You know, and it was just, I can't even tell you. I melted. Being sober at Burning Man, I love it. I'll tell you, you know, for a guy who has a constant urge to get high, Burning Man is the last place on earth I would ever need something. And I've never once, I mean, don't get me wrong, I get tempted and, you know, I have my moments, but it's never once been at Burning Man. Because you're kind of already there. It might not be quite as visual or dramatic, but your head's there already. You're already taking in a really big way all that Burning Man has to offer. You're on the trip.
Yeah, for sure.
You don't need to like make it happen. It's happening. You're there. The big crazy shit's already going on in front of you, and
you're inundated in it.
You're plugged into this giant mass of people who are all exploding at once, you know what I mean? And if your brain's already plugged into that, it's happening to you. My favorite Burning Man story, it's not a long one, it's very brief, but my very, very favorite thing I think that ever happened was I was just sitting in a lawn chair, kind of staring off into the distance in the afternoon, and it looked like a pretty calm day to me. There wasn't a dust storm or anything like that. And just way off in the distance, a tent shot straight up into the air. Straight up into the air, like there was a string pulling it up into the sky. Like I couldn't believe it. And this didn't happen in my head. I was completely sober. And this tent just shot up into the air like the Wizard of Oz. I could kind of see stuff falling out of it. And it just kind of went out of view, and that was it. It was marvelous. It was like getting to see the Northern Lights or something. For assholes.
I saw that happen to an untethered car park. It went up about 15, 20 feet, and then the wind changed, and it came right back down and went through the front windshield of like a brand new Jeep.
Wow.
Yeah, so secure. That's what rebar's for, kids.
That happened to a campmate of mine. It knocked the side view mirror off their rental.
Have you ever gotten hurt at Burning Man?
I did not get hurt at Burning Man per se. I got hurt at 4th of July. I'm actually pretty proud of this. As the only sober person in a camp of 30, like, I hurt myself worse than anybody that week.
Nicely done.
Okay, can I disclaim that nobody should do any of the stuff I'm about to say? Like not even for fun. I mean, this is like definitely people have died at Japlaya from stuff like this, and thinking that like
Not even there yet,
stuff.
just on the way there.
On the way there. Oh, and there. All I want to say is like respect the limitations of vehicles when you're out on the playa when nobody's around. You're not in a car commercial. Cars roll a lot easier than you think they do. That's all I want to say before I actually tell this story, and somebody thinks it's funny and actually does it. Here's how I almost died. So, me and my buddy Mikey are out, we're driving his truck just kind of out in deep playa. This is during 4th of July, which if you don't know is kind of an informal thing. We're just out there, deep, driving, and like we got, I want to say we got it going up to like 30, and...
It's like a little pickup, like a Toyota?
It's a little Toyota pickup, like a 4-banger. This was back when like ghost riding was getting really big in Oakland. It started off, we were like sitting on the windows. Like hanging out the window, and then we're, two dudes, so we're kind of daring each other, and then we got up like onto the roof. And we're up on top of the roof of this car going pretty fast out there, and there was another car behind us, and we were dancing around like looking at the car behind us like, woo! My girlfriend was back there looking at me making awful, awful faces. but we were doing it, we were killing it. Like we were surfing on top of a car going way, way, way too fast.
What is keeping the gas on?
Huh?
What is keeping the gas on?
Nothing, it's just going. There's nothing to stop it.
It's
We just
flat.
got it going really fast, and like
And then
it
you
just
climb
kept
out.
going, and then we just climbed out. He might have put it in neutral, I don't know. And then he jumped back into the car and kicked the wheel on his way in. And yeah, man, I was up there, and I will tell you, I always wanted to know. Okay, you know how time dilation happens? I had the time to sit there and actually say to myself, this is what you're going to do, Andy? Like, I've always wanted to know. You're going to run really, really fast when you hit the ground, and we're just going to see if you can, like, fucking run it out. like the car went out from under me, I was in midair, and I was just like, run. Just run as soon as you hit the ground, run as soon as you hit the ground, and I hit the ground. And I took 2 steps and just flattened right the fuck out, and like bounced up off the ground and hit again, and bounced up off the ground and hit again, and just kind of like skid out.
You could actually known as crashing and burning.
Yeah, I'm trying to think. You can still, you can still kind of see it. All right, do you see this discoloration right here? That's where that's from.
Nice.
Ugh.
Yeah.
Playa-burns.
I've had a series of ludicrous accidents in my life, and I tend to bounce right.
Hey, we're back. Thanks for taking a listen to episodes 1 through 4 of our very first season. As you can see, we started real goddamn strong. I mean, come on, Smoke Daddy in
Smoke
episode
Daddy
1?
is the best. Like it just.
Holy shit.
But this is why Smoke Daddy is the reason why I was like, but let's just do Scumbag Radio Hour. Like, let's just talk to human beings living on the fringe of what is socially acceptable and let them tell us about their lives.
Yeah, we're gonna find them on Facebook, Beth.
I would say, and completionists, you can tell me if I'm wrong. down in the comments. We don't have comments in my email, on Twitter, whatever.
Yeah, send Rex emails of your comments, please.
On balance, more scumbags or tech bros? Because we've had a lot. We've had untold tech wealth.
Oh, you know what?
Studio.
You know what you got to ask though is more like, and these you have to balance out with how they exist individually within each person is scumbag, tech bro, slut. Because like we've got some major.
God, no, slut like overrides almost everything. Slut has got to be the number one descriptor.
of Burning.
Yeah, because we've had scumbag sluts and we've had tech bro sluts, but we've had very few not sluts through the studios. Sluts unite. Everybody gets the slut.
We are pro not slut. If you are not a slut, you are welcome.
Absolutely. We do not judge how much or how little sex you want to have.
But totally, come hang out. Try being sluts.
But we are also like super pro slut. Yo, slut.
Y'all
Anyway.
like moaning?
We cut out all of the long, silly outro bits on all of these episodes. So here's our obligatory.
Yeah, so you never have to hear us say Creative Commons again.
Oh, God, we had that thing written
Creative
out.
Commons.
It took so long. I cut it into every episode. I'm so glad we stopped. Mostly because we forgot to do it. I love that about us. This is a really strong thing about us.
We forgot to do that, but we did get much, much better at introducing ourselves at the beginning of the episode. So we overcame your resistance to that particular bit of formula.
We get set up. We sit down. We get stoned. We learn how to podcast naturally. We're out.
Did you have another joint?
They're upstairs.
Anyway.
But you two are much closer to the door. Don't let the cats down. More importantly, I'm sorry.
More importantly, continue. I'll go get a joint.
Oh, I don't know where you were going.
You know the things we do at the end of the episode. Let's do.
Oh, we're doing the things at
Oh, yeah.
the end of the episode.
End of the episode. Hey, guys, contact us on all the social media platforms.
That we're on.
And,
At Accuracy Third on Twitter, on Instagram, Accuracy Third on Facebook, accuracythird@gmail.com is probably the very best way.
And
if we're not on a platform, open a spoof account and pretend you're us.
come give us
that's
money
a terrible idea. Cut
on
that out.
Patreon if you have the money. We have an internet bill and we have a bunch of cats that are within our care. And we use the money that you give us to supply beers and some amount of
snacky poos
totally legal drugs for people who come to interview with us.
Which
and oh
is
my God,
not-
this takes so much time and effort, and it really helps to be able to minimize the amount of bills on our shoulders. Property taxes are real, y'all.
The best way to support us, well, we don't want to minimize cash because who doesn't love cash, is to come on this damn show and tell us your stories about going to Burning Man or going to Nowhere or Africa Burn or China Burn or your local regional. Tell us how you participate in this ever mutating global culture that spawned in the desert by accident.
And the other best way you can help support us is give your virgins our podcast, give your friends who are burners our podcast. Let's be honest, no one wants to listen to this other than burners. Please, hand this over to your friends. Do you think they might like it? Does it matter if they might like it? Give it a shot. Go ahead and send them one of our good episodes and see if they like it.
Or rate and review us on whatever platform you're listening to us on. If you want to check out the original versions of these episodes, because whatever, they're on our Spotify, they're on our webpage, accuracythird.com, and they're on our YouTube channel with awesome visual accompaniment, thanks to our awesome friend Kubrick. Thanks for listening. We'll be back with the second half of this whenever you hit play on that.
Good afternoon. I'm D-Day. And I'm Rex. And this
We attend Burning Man. We share something unique there. The things we do and see in Black Rock City, the bizarre and beautiful interactions that you have with brilliant strangers from around the world, the relationships we form with them for an evening, a week, or a lifetime if you're lucky. The art, monumental or mobile, visual, tactile, or auditory. All these experiences combine to create a fantastic adventure that, despite its tremendous impact on so many of our lives, we seem to have a hard time explaining it to others.
So we started the Accuracy Third podcast as a repository for the stories of our community. Here we can share stories about our city and the lives that comprise it. We want to preserve and disseminate these stories because ultimately we feel that Burning Man is significant. From its organic, unplanned emergence from the bohemian subculture of San Francisco to its decision to organize itself around the 10 principles and really become a radical experiment in community. Burning Man is an unprecedented expression of American culture. It's fostered new art movements. It's hosted some of the most spectacular large-scale art the world has ever seen. Since its inception, it's spread from this obscure little art party in the desert to this global network of cultural events celebrating human expression.
Look, Burning Man isn't as important as clean drinking water. But Burning Man is important in a cultural and an artistic sense, and it's really hard to describe. Just look at the trouble we're having explaining it to you and you know what it is. But we at Accuracy Third feel that we need to democratize the narrative, so we're going to need your help to tell your stories, because at its root, Black Rock City is nothing but a few tens of thousands of really attractive, filthy people camping together. Communities are held together by stories, and Accuracy Third is here to share your story, and thus the story of Burning Man, which is really pretentious, so I'm not going to say that.
Communities have always been held together by stories, so Accuracy Third is here to share yours. In this introductory episode, we're going to share some of the stories we've collected from some of our friends and acquaintances around the Bay Area and around California. Going forward, as we get to meet more of you, we're going to attempt to structure our episodes around themes.
Or we won't. As with most Burning Man projects, what we end up with isn't exactly going to be what we planned. And this podcast is a rough idea more than a plan. So the shape it ends up taking will depend largely on the participation of the community. So come on, tell us that you want to tell us your story at accuracythird.com. And remember, experience first, communicate second, and accuracy third.